Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for coming and joining us for the learning of this more challenging Masechta. This is a challenging Masechta, and the Olam has shown great grit in joining us. We are sponsored through this difficult Masechta by Yisrael Fisher, Lili Nishmas, Avram Ben Yosef Gross. We're sponsored by Dr. and Mrs. Black. Lili Nishmas is uncle, Mordechai Ben Yisrael. Neshama should have a lichtige Gan Eden. And we are sponsored by Eddie Chazan for the safety, security, and success of the brave soldiers of the IDF. We want to remind the Olam from the get-go that we will have a siyum tomorrow night here in Agudas Yisrael Beis Zeva Fairways at 5:45 tomorrow. And anybody who is within distance, please come and join us and help us be freilich. And maybe, who knows, maybe we'll be surprised by Marshall, and then we'll have a roast.
I get that every day from you guys.
No, this will do special. We'll have something special. Pitchforks or something. Come dressed in red and ready. Yeah.
If there was more advanced notice, I could work it out. Like Thursday, you decided Monday. That's seriously.
No, Marshall is getting the idea. Okay, so
I'm wearing my Romanian hat tonight.
we are holding by Tanya, which is 3 lines from the bottom of Daf Hei Amud Beis. 3 lines from the bottom of Daf Hei Amud Beis. Tanya, Reb Shimon Omer, Ma Talmud Loimer. Now this is an interesting thing. This is taught by the very rare procedure that when the Levium took over from the firstborns, so they brought 2 inaugural karbanos. It says that 1 par was for an oila and 1 par was for a chatas. So Matam Eloimer par sheni ben bakar tikach lechatas. And the second bull you should take as a sin offering. Now the words par sheni is superfluous because it already says echad la'oila ve'echad lechatas. So obviously the second bull is the second one. Im l'lamed shem shnayim, if it's coming to tell you that they were a total of 2, that's not necessary. V'aloi kvar nemar, it already says v'asa esa echad chatas ve'esa echad oila la'Hashem. It says 1 is a sin offering and 1 is a burnt offering. Rather, we would think, and we would be right to think, that this is a garden variety chatas that could be eaten. That they could eat the chatas. It means sheni la'oila. It's second to the nature of an oila. Ma oila loy nechelas, just like a burnt offering is not eaten, so this chatas also is not eaten. It's taken out to be burnt. Af chatas loy nechelas. And we have a similar example of this. Kayotzi by Amar Reb Yosi, Haboim me'ashvi hagoyla. Those that came from captivity from Bavel, from the diaspora, Hikrivu olos le'elokei Yisrael. They offered olos to Elokei Yisrael. Parim shnayim aser, and it's a lengthy pasuk. The pasuk says that they brought bulls 12, al kol Yisrael, elim tishim v'shisha, 96 rams, kvasim shivim v'shiva, 77 sheep, tzvirei chatas, shnayim aser, and there is just want to see the exact rendering of tzvirei chatas. Yeah, so the tzvirei is he-goats. 12 he-goats. Chatas. Hakol oilo l'Hashem. Now, obviously, that's a contradiction. It says 12 he-goats as chatas, and it says they're all oilo l'Hashem. What does that mean? Hakol oilo? Says the Gemara in amazement, everything is a burnt offering? Sol kedaitach? It's after shechatas oilo. Can a sin offering be a burnt offering? Ella, here too, hakol ka'oila. They're all like a burnt offering. Ma ola loy necheles. Just like a burnt offering is not eaten, these chatos are like the chatas apnimius that are burnt. Av chatas loy necheles. So also the chatas is not eaten. Now, why isn't this chatas eaten? What's the reason? The Tanya, and we welcome in Michal Avram that just came in. Let's give Michal Avram the place. We're on Vav Amud Aleph, and we are 6 lines from the top. 6 lines from the top. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, shehakol niyeh b'dvaro. Tanya. For we learned in the Braisa, Rabbi Yehuda Aimer al avodas kechavim heviyam. When they came from the diaspora, they brought these karbanos to atone for the idolatry we'll see that their ancestors did at the time of Tzidkiyahu. V'am Rabbi Yehuda Mishmul al avodas kechavim should also be made Tzidkiyahu. The idolatry that they did during the days of Tzidkiyahu, who was the king of Yehuda. Now, the problem is, which the Gemara is going to try to address, we know that we don't bring chatas shemeisu baleha. We don't bring a chatas if the owner died. So the Gemara says now, addressing the machloikis Rameir and Rabbi Yehuda. Remember that Rameir says that if the entire congregation sinned, they bring only one par. Rabbi Yehuda says that it's not the court that brings the par, but rather it's the shvatim. So if 12 shvatim sinned, so then they bring 12 karbanos. So the Gemara says the fact that they brought 12 he-goats as a chatas, we explained that these 12 chatos were that during the days of Tzidkiyahu, the 12 shvatim sinned. The ma'asin shnei asa seirim. Inami dechatu shiva shvatim, or it works out according to Rabbi Yehuda that 7 shvatim sinned, and the other 5 bring because of Greira, they're schlepped along. Because remember, Rabbi Yehuda holds if the majority of the Shvatim sin, the other 5 Shvatim also bring. Ushara inach b'Greira. Reb Shimon nami mishkach. Now, Reb Shimon's a little bit more complicated, but Reb Shimon says the court has to also bring a carbon. But according to Reb Shimon, it could be that 11 Shvatim sinned. So 11 Shvatim sinned, so it's 11 plus the court. Reb Shimon nami mishkach kagan nechatu achad asa shvatim. The ma'asu achad asa seirim, 11 goats, ve'idach the bezdin. But according to Reb Meir, who says that if the majority of Klal Yisrael sins, only the bezdin brings, El Rebbe Meir dama bezdin meviam v'loy tzibur, the bezdin brings, and not the tzibur, and not the community. It shouldn't be 12, it should only be 1. So how do you have 12? So the Gemara answers they did multiple sins. They sinned once, and they sinned again, and they sinned again 12 times. Until 12 times. Says the Gemara, but I don't understand. This is something that we don't do. We don't bring a chattis for people that already died. Here they're coming into Eretz Yisrael. Gullus Bavel was 70 years, so the people that sinned already died. Amra Papa says the Gemara, those that sinned already died. We don't bring a chattis for people that died. Says the Gemara, you're right. There's a halacha l'moshe misinai, as we're going to talk about extensively. There's a halacha l'moshe misinai. Yes?
Good evening. I'm following up about the list of Shachar.
I'm in the middle of saying shir, sorry. Says the Gemara, Amar Papa, that was somebody's phone? Okay. Amar Papa, where we have a klal that a chattis whose owner dies is halacha l'moshe misinai that it has to die. For example, let's say Chatzkel was Mechal Shabbos, and he separated a chattis, but before they brought it, he died. So the din is en kapara after misa, and that chattis has to perish; it has to die. But says the Gemara, that's only if it's a chattis yachid. Amar Papa kigami rechat shemeisa ba'aleh b'misa hani mili b'yachid. That's only an individual's chattis. Avalei b'tzibur, but not if it's communal, like over here. Lefisha ein misa b'tzibur. There is no death for a communal carbon. Says the Gemara, how does Rav Papa know this rule? Minolei l'Rav Papa ha. That the children will be instead of their fathers. If that's the case, that should imply to an individual too. This is very interesting. We know that on Reish Chodesh we bring a goat as a chattis. Now, where does that money come from? It comes from the kaffers of the shkolim. It comes from the Trumas Halishka. The problem is that money represents people who could have died already. You know, some of the people that gave shkolim, they could have died already. So, since we're using their funds, it's a chattis that some of the owners died. So says the Gemara, "Zdukid Rapapa Misar Reish Chodesh Amar Rachmana." My same Trumas Halishka, we bring it from the coins that are taken out from the shefaros. That's the pushkas that were in the chamber. V'maisi Lumi Yisrael. There were people that died since the shkalim were brought until this carbon was brought from those coins. V'hanach the paisu heichim maisu. Those that are left, how could they bring the goat from the musaf from funds that are partly from people that died? Even if some of the owners died, it's brought. Says the Gemara, it's no comparison. Me dummy, what's the comparison? Maybe nobody died. Over here, you're bringing a carbon for sure. Those people, now it's 70 years later, when we came into Eretz Yisrael, definitely people that worshipped at the time of Tzidkiyahu died. Ela time Rav Papa mehacha. The reason or a papa is from the following. Dichsiv, kaper la'amcha Yisrael. Now this is, boy, we're all over the place over here. I'm all over the place over here. Now we're quoting from, and Mark, it's good to see you. You know, I waited with bated breath because I knew you were coming. I had faith. Had faith. We're holding on Davavam and Aleph, and we're holding 8 lines above the wide lines. And now we're talking about the Egla Rufa. An Egla Rufa, and I know whenever we talk about Egla Rufa, Marshall holds on to his neck. But the other side of the neck, Marshall. It's done from the nape of the neck. Look what's behind you. So anyway.
It's not safe behind you.
Yeah. Anyway, the din is if there's an unsolved homicide, the city that's closest to the unsolved homicide brings a heifer, and we break its neck, and we say the following formula: Kaper la'amcha Yisrael asher podisa Hashem. Atone for your nation Yisrael, which you redeemed Hashem. Now, what's that referring to? It's referring to Hashem who redeemed us from Egypt. And every national Egla Rufa atones for the idol worship that the Jews did in Egypt. Ru'uyat kaparazu shetechaper al yotzei Mitzrayim. Now, midichsiv asher podisa, because it says midichsiv asher podisa. So you see that here we have a carbon, the Egla Rufa offering, that atones even though the owners are dead. Says the Gemara, that's different. Over there, we're atoning for something now, something contemporary, the unsolved homicide, and also, along the way, we atone for something in the past. Mi dami. Hasam kulu isnan, kulu isinan. Here, we're all here in this city, and being responsible for the unsolved homicide, and megav the mechapra achayim, since it's mechapra for the people in the city, mechapra nami amesim. Elahacha, but over here, mi havu chayim, are the people alive who worshipped? Says the Gemara, yes there are. Einachanami. There are people that are alive from the time that they worshipped with Tzidkiyahu. Dichsiv, it's very interesting. This is another very interesting pasuk. There were different reactions from the people when they saw the new temple. Those that saw the destruction, they cried, because they remembered the grandeur of what was. Those that didn't see the destruction, they were jubilant because they saw a new temple. So the Chsiv Rabbim me'akahanim v'levim v'roshei ha'avos, many of the kahanim, leviim, and heads of the homes has a kanim. Asher roa es habayis harishon biyasta ze habayis beinayim boichim b'kol gadol. They cried because they remembered the grandeur of the old house. Those that didn't see it, v'rabim b'srua b'simcha laharim kel, others were jubilant and joyous. Says the Gemara, v'dilma mu'atin hava v'lo rabim hava. Maybe the ones that were older were in the minority. Says the Gemara, no, because Haksiv, there's another pasuk. The pasuk says, "V'lo hikiru b'kol tuas hasimcha l'kol b'chiyam." They couldn't hear the sound of the jubilant shouting because of the crying. V'akol nishma ad l'merachak. So here also, because it's mechaper for those that are here, that survive, it's mechaper for those in the past also. But now the Gemara asks a different question. But how could a chatas atone? Those that did worship did it deliberately. And a carbon is only mechaper for unwitting transgressions. Says the Gemara, V'hama zidan havu. They were willful. And a carbon is only mechaper for unwitting sins. Carbon is enough to be mechaper for willful sins. And you know something? Just since we crested 30, we're at 31 already. So let's welcome everybody in as we welcome in Yaakov Warman, Saba, Irving Fishbound, what's his name? Marshall Castle, Shalom Fogel, Ruvain Pollack, Yitzi Fuchs, Rebellia Yaffe, Baruch Ian, Yisrael Fisher, Dr. Black, Mel Zachter, Dr. Eisenberg. You know, Dr. Eisenberg, I'm getting very used to seeing your face. It's very nice. Michael, Shimon Klein, Dr. Udell, Barry Cement, Ben Zion Cohn, Mark Frankel, Menachem Yemansky, Dr. Guy, Yeshua Shmuel Eisenberg, Nachman Chapler, Moshe Lehman, Stephen Holtzman, Avram Rezepkowitz, Danny Vogel, Yeshutman, Yitzi Muller. Here in Shul, we have Berish Gesserman, Chaim Kramer, Michal Avram, Ruvain Shannon. Nice to have people come down to the shul. Still working on it. I have to up my game that I should have more charm and people should want to come. It's just very hard to fight against the comfort of your home. It's hard. No, the people they're very diet conscious. You got to give out a Zempic over here. You do something like that. They'll only take Romanian francs in pill form. Anyway, answers the Gemara, you're right. This was a one-time exception. Sometimes things are special for its time. It's an anomaly. So it has to be and achanami mistava, because we have karbanas over here, rear karbanas. What's the cheshbon that they brought 96 rams and 77 sheep? What's the chazron? The Eloi Tema Achi, Elim Tishim Veshisha, 96 rams, Kvasim Shiva Veshiva, and 77 lambs. Kenegin me, what does it correspond to? So it was a one-time thing. Hachanami harashais. Now, Tan Rabbana. Meis echad min hatzibur. If the majority of Klal Yisrael sinned, and one of them died, chayavin, they still bring a par helam davar shel tzibur. But echad me bezdin, if a member of the bezdin dies, peturin. So Mantana, Amar Rab Chizka, Amar Rab Zera, Amar Rab Yirmiyah, Amar Rav, Rameir. It's going according to Rameir. Now, according to Rameir, it's Bezdin that brings the carbon, right? If the majority sins, the Bezdin brings the carbon. The Amar Bezdin meviyem v'loy tzibur. Therefore, hilkach meis echad min hatzibur. That doesn't affect the bringing of the carbon. Chayavin. Ha'koim kulei Bezdin, because the whole Bezdin is intact. Meis echad me Bezdin peturin. Why? Because then you don't have the whole Bezdin intact. Obviously, chatas shemeis echad min hashutfin. It's a chatas that one of the partners died. Or mishum hachi peturim. Says the Gemara, who says, V'nukma k'Rebbi Shimon, let's say that it's going according to Reb Shimon, who says, the Amar Bezdin im HaTzibur, that the Bezdin brings together with the Tzibur. So Meis Echon min HaTzibur Chayavim, if a member of the Tzibur dies, they're still chayiv to bring the Ein Tzibur Mason, because we don't have an exemption of Misa by a Tzibur. Meis Echon min Bezdin Peturin, Kidamrinon, because there it's a partnership, the Chatas Shutfani, and if it's a Chatas of a partner, if one of the partners dies, they don't bring it. Says the Gemara, it can't be Reb Shimon, because Amalei Abaya Shaminon Leila Reb Shimon, we know that Reb Shimon's opinion is the Amar Chatas Shutfin Eina Mesa. He holds that the Chatas of partners doesn't die. Now, where do we know that Reb Shimon holds that way? And don't look now, but we already have 33 Zoomers joining us. Wow. As Avigdor came in, it's great to have him. Barry, Itchy came in, 33 Zoomers, and we give Marshall the people that are here too now, so that's 38 Zoomers. So Marshall, a little work from, little work. What does Marshall know from work?
7,500 we're carrying around.
Anyway,
8245.
so says the Gemara, how do we know that Reb Shimon holds that when one of the partners die, the Chatas doesn't have to die? How do we know that? The Tanya Parvisor Shel Yom HaKippurim, the bull and the Sar of Yom Kippur She'avdu, it's incredible that this could happen, but they lost the bull and the he-goat of Yom Kippur, V'hefresh acherim tachteim, and they separated others in their stead. So when they find the ones that were lost, Yamusu Kulan, they all have to die. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda. Rebbe Eliezer, Reb Shimon Aimer, Rebbe Eliezer, Reb Shimon says, no, and the ones that they find, Yiru, are left out to pasture until they get a mum. Lefi she'ein chatas tzibur mesa. So the Gemara says, actually, the power of the Kayin is not a national power. The power of the Kayin is a power of Shutfim, because it's a power of the Kahanim. And yet you see that even though it's just a bunch of Shutfim, of partners, it's not left out to die. So Rav Yosef says that's no proof. Kahanim are not considered partners. Amalei Rav Yosef, Kahanim kamret? Shani Kahanim dikrei kol. The Kahanim are considered a community. Dichsiv ala Kahanim v'al kol am hakol yechaper. For the Kahanim and the community, it's mechaper. So you see, the Kahanim are considered a kol. And therefore that's no raya that Reb Shimon holds that the chatas of partners is not left to die. Says the Gemara, and I know that when Mark sees that we turn the page, and it's not a bulging page, Mark gets very depressed. I know, I see it in his face always. I'm sorry, Mark, I didn't make the dafen. Elamiyata, says the Gemara, if that's the case, then if the Klal Yisrael sins and eats chaylev of a psak erroneously made by the Bezdin, you shouldn't bring 12 karbanas, you should bring 13, if the Kahanim are considered a kal. Elamiyata naisi par b'ha'ira, v'chitei mahachanami, if the Kahanim sin. So then they also bring a par, then Tveilu Shvatim, then it wouldn't be 12, it would be 13. Elama Rav Acha B'Rebbe Yaakov, Shiftoi Shalevi Lo Ikre Kol. Because the status of Kol is dependent on getting a portion in the land. I will make you fruitful and increase you. Unisaticha kal amim, and I'll make you unisaticha lekal amim. And the pasuk continues, "V'nasati es haaretz ha'azais l'zaracha acharecha achazayim." So who's considered a kal? Only when are you a kal amim? Only if you get a portion. Since Shevet Levi was not given a portion, for this they're not considered a kal. Kol sheyesh lo yachuza ikrei kal. But the kol she'ein lo yachuza, if they don't get an inheritance, lo ikrei kal. They're not considered a kal. Says the Gemara, yeah, but if you don't count Shevet Levi, so then you only have 11. Im kein chasvi lu yud bei shvatim. Says the Gemara, no, we count Ephraim and Menashe as 2. Amar Abaye, Ephraim and Menashe, Keruvim and Shimon Yuli. Says the Gemara, Amar Rava, v'aksiv al shem acherim yikaru b'nachalasam. Huh? What did I say? No, achayim. I said achayim. V'aksiv al shem achayim yikaru b'nachalasam. They will be called after their brothers in inheritance. L'nachala hukshu. They're only juxtaposed to be separate, to be like Reuven and Shimon, only for inheritance, but not for other things. Not, for example, for the par elam davar shel tzibur. Says V'lai, v'achalukim b'digalim. They each had their own banner in the midbar. In the midbar they had banners. And there was a banner for Ephraim and there was a banner for Menashe. Says the Gemara, that's no problem. Kinachalosan kach chaniyasan. As they inherited separately, they also camped with exclusive banners kidei lechale covered l'degalim, to give honor to the banners. It shouldn't be that each camp should have its own distinct banner. Says the Gemara, v'achalukim b'nesiyim, when the Nesiyim brought their gifts to Hashem, to the Mishkan, Ephraim and Menashe each brought their own separate gift. So the Gemara says again, Hahu lachloi covered Nesiyim. The Tanya, we learn to the Braisa, Shloima Osa Zayin Yemei Chanukah. Shlomo HaMelech made 7 days an inauguration for the temple. When he inaugurated the Mishkan, why did he make 12 days? So really the Gemara leaves us over here hanging. Because the Gemara leaves us hanging if Ephraim and Menashe are only separate for camping and for gifts and for banners, and they're all considered one with everything else, so then how do you have 12? If you don't count Levi, and they're counted as 1, you only have 11. But the Gemara leaves us hanging on that. But the Gemara now says we want to get back to our question of the chattis of shutfin. In other words, if you have a chattis of partners and one of them dies, does that chattis have to perish, or you could offer it? So the Gemara says, "My havi Allah." Tajma, the Tanya, and this is good to know, Rabbi said, this is, especially when we're going to come to Kachim, we're going to learn this over and over and over again. There's a halacha l'Moshe Sinai that 5 chattas have to be left to die. This is a good thing to know. It's all over Shas. The Tanya, Reb Shimon Aimer, Chamesh chatois mesas. The 5 sin offerings that have to be left to die. Vlad chatas. See, a chatas is interesting because a chatas is a female animal. Let's say Michal Avram separated a chatas. Before he brought it, it gave birth. What do you do with the baby? It too is a chatas, but a chatas cannot be brought as a voluntary offering. So Vlad chatas has to die. Also, the Torah bans making a tmura. Tmura, we'll have a whole masechta about tmura. The Torah, you could say zeh tachazeh. This should be instead of this. And the halacha is if Michal Avram takes an animal and he says this should be instead of this chatas, the second animal also becomes a chatas. The first one remains a chatas. So again, he has an extra chatas. What does he do with it? It has to be left to die. Tmur is chatas. Now, not Michal Avram. But let's say Chatzkel separates a chatas, and before he brings it, he dies. Chatas shemeisa balas. Since ein kapor lacha misa, there's no atonement after death. That chatas has to be left to die. The chatas shenis kapru baleha. This is the classic case. Michal Avram separates a chatas, loses it. He offers another one, and then he finds the first one. He already received the atonement. What does he do with the first one? That's a chatas shenis kapru baleha. It has to be left to die. And the fifth example is the chatas. Many chatas have to be a yearling, a year old. Let's say Michal Avram separates an animal, but he dilly-dallies, and it's over the hill. It's a chatas she'avra shnasa. It's past its allowance. What do you do with it? It has to die. No, they put it in a keeper, and they do a procedure. They first let it starve a little bit, and then they force feed it, and it explodes. But it dies. It's halach l'moshe misinai. Now, says the Gemara, 3 of these cannot be by a chatas of a community. There's no offspring of a chatas by a tzibur because a communal chatas is never a female. She'ain tzibur mafrish in the keva. A tzibur never brings a female sin offering. Because the whole law of tmura is only by an individual and not by a tzibur. She'ain tmura b'tzibur. You can't say chatas whose owner dies by a tzibur because a tzibur never dies. She'ain tzibur meisib. The question is, can there be by the tzibur a chatas that the owner was atoned for already, or a chatas that's over the hill? Now, technically, that could happen. The tzibur could lose their carbon, offer another one, and find the first one. And the tzibur could be negligent, and it's over the hill. So, in such a case, does it die? So says the Gemara, Sheniskapru balea v'she'avra shnasa lo yishamanu. That we don't know what's the din by a tzibur. If they lost their carbon, separated another one, then they found the first one. Or if it was over the hill, Yachal Yamusu, I might think it should be left to die. Amrit Yilmit Sasam Min HaMefurish. We learn out that which is unclear from that which is clear. Ma matzina b'vlad chatas v'tmuras chatas v'shemeisa b'aleha. B'yochid dvar ma'amurim. It's only by an individual v'loy b'tzibur. Afshin iskapru b'aleha v'she'avar shnasa b'yochid dvar ma'amurim v'loy b'tzibur. Says the Gemara, but why? V'chi done in afsher, mishi afsher? Do we learn out efshir from efshir? In other words, the first three are efshir. You can't have a vlad chatas because there's no female communal chatas. You can't have chatas shemesa bala because the tzibur doesn't die. And you can't have a tmura by a tzibur because a tzibur can't make a tmura. The din of tmura is only by yachid. But the latter two are possible. So do you learn out efshir from efshir? Says the Gemara, Rab Shimon bechad mokum gomer. Rab Shimon learns out that we say the 5 chatois meisais, it has to be a situation where it could be by all 5. And the only place it could be by all 5 is by Yochid. Because by a tzibur you can't have 3 of the 5. And the din of chatas shemeisu is only said when you could have all 5. So says the Gemara, it's interesting that the Gemara doesn't even wrap it up. But then that's the same thing by shutfin. Because by a chatas of shutfin, you can't have a tmura. Because shutfin don't do a tmura. So therefore, since it's not by all 5, it's not by any of shutfin. And therefore, a chatas where one of the shutfin dies will not be left to die. You don't say, chatas shemeisu baleh. Hadru l'chayru bezdin. Hadru l'chayru bezdin. Hadru l'chayru bezdin. Now,
does Gemara change its mind from what it said about the Kohanim to the Tzibur?
I told you, the Gemara left that open. Well, the way the Rishonim seem to learn is that although the Kohanim are Ikrei Kol, although the Kohanim are Ikrei Kol, although the Kohanim are not considered Kohol because they don't have a Yerusha, right? They don't have a Yerusha, but they could be Ikrei Kol in our question, which was right. They could be Ikrei Kol regarding that it's not a question of Chatas HaShutfin. You hear what I'm saying?
Yeah, I wasn't sure. It seemed like the Gemara did an about face.
No. Now, Hora Kayin Mashiach La'atzmai. Now this is a new carbon. There's a din that if the anointed Kayin Gadol, who's a Talmid Chacham, paskins that a certain chaylev is permitted, and he did it according to his psak, according to his erroneous psak, he ate the chaylev. So in such a case, he brings the unique par kayin Mashiach, the bull of the kayin Mashiach. It's a special carbon whose blood is offered inside the Kodesh, and the par is burnt. So let's see. He made a mistake. He made an erroneous psak that the chaylev is mutter. V'aser shaygek, and then he did it in error, following his psak, maybe par. Shaygek, however, if he made an error and he rendered an erroneous decision, but then it, then he did it intentionally. In other words, he realized his mistake, and even so, he ate the chaylev, or mazid, or he decided intentionally to make a wrong psak, but then afterwards he did it shageg. He made in mind that he was going to do an Issachar, but then afterwards he ate it b'shageg. He thought it was satmar meat, and he ate it b'shogeg. In these cases, he's potter. Shehoras kayim Mashiach la'atzmai kahiras bezdin l'tzibur, because the psak of the kayin Mashiach, the anointed kayin for himself, is like the psak of bezdin, where it has to be an erroneous mistake, and the tzibur has to follow erroneously. So here too, the kayin Mashiach has to erroneously decide that the chaylev is mutter by mistake, and then follow that mistake. Then he brings the par kayin Mashiach. Says the Gemara, shoygeg vasa shoygeg maybe par pshita. Obviously, that's the case, where he made a mistake about the psak and then followed his erroneous decision. Says the Gemara, no. Amar Abaye hacha b'mayaskinan kigayin shahira. He paskin the chaylev was mutter. Now he bought the chaylev in the store, but v'shachach me'ezet tam hayra. He forgot the reason for his heter. He forgot his line of reasoning. He says, I can't remember why I ruled that this chaylev is mutter. However, ub'shah shetaya, when he ate the chaylev, Amar hareini oisa al das hara'asi. I can't remember why I permitted it, but I knew I had a good reason. So I'm eating it because of my original heter. So I might think, the Ma'od Seva Kavan the Ilu Misyadale, maybe if he would have remembered his reason, Shema Hoderbe, maybe he would have retracted. And therefore the fact that he didn't remember it now, that's not enough to make him considered a shogeg. And therefore, b'mezid dummy, the fact that he ate it even so, is considered to be karev to deliberate, because you shouldn't have eaten it if you don't remember your line of reasoning. V'loy l'chayiv, and I might think that he would be chayiv to bring the parkay Mashiach, kamash malon, that he is. Whoa, every night is an avodah. Every night is an avodah, but I'll tell you the truth, Rabbi Yisai, what better time to work so hard than before Rosh Hashanah and get the schus? We did finish before 9 o'clock, so people that have to get to sleep by 9 and get tucked in could do so. Again, remember, we have the lights are on for all those that want to join us at 5:45. Remember that mincha is 5 to 7, so we don't have that much time. So come in early, and thank you everybody for joining us, and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you. Have a wonderful evening.
Shelley here?
Rabbi Mike, what time is
What? What do you say, Barry?
5:45?
5:45 is the siyum.
Rabbi White, I'm going home to Israel tomorrow. Don't think that.
Oh, but I'm very happy for you, Eddie. I'm always happy for you. I'm sad to see you leave, but I'm happy that you're rejoining your family.
Barry was asking what kind of daf.
What?
Barry was asking what time the daf was going.
The daf is 8 o'clock.